And we are on live on YouTube and starting recording in 3, 2, 1. Diary of a Trans Woman is brought to you by each and every one of you over at patreon.com. Head on over to patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman to check out more about how you can support the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It is Diary of a Trans Woman. We took a week off last week because we tried to do a show and it did not work at all. We tried to do a show live from Nerdtacular. It didn't work, so record a little thank you message for everyone out there listening. So if you heard that, thank you. If you didn't hear that, thank you. But yeah, I am joined by my BFF and CHI, EJ. How are you doing today, EJ?
I'm all right, Abby. Hey, how was Nerdtacular?
Nerdtacular was great. I know that a lot of the people listening here have found this show through the Diamond Club, through the Frog Pants Network, Tadpole, that kind of stuff. But I know there's some people out there who have not heard of these things. And if you don't know, I get together with a group of podcasting buddies, a couple of big communities of two different podcasting networks. I'm just going to open my beer here right now. But we get together in Salt Lake City every summer and just basically have a great time. We're amazing friends online, and this is the one time we get to see each other in person. It was amazing how many people came up to me and said that they loved what the show was doing, and it meant a lot to me to hear that. So to everyone out there who came up to me or talked to me or was there, thank you so much. That meant a ton to me. But yeah, other than that, that's about it that happened with Salt Lake City. Some other stuff happened though. EJ and I got to hang out. EJ, you treated me to where did we go?
Pequod's Pizzeria in Morton Grove, Illinois.
Ooh. Yeah, I had a 4-hour layover in Chicago on my way back and got to go and get some pizza with EJ. So that was a lot of fun. We finally have a picture of us together for the podcast. So woo.
I know for sure that Abby isn't just a character I made up.
There's proof now that I actually have a co-host and I'm not doing this by myself and talking to myself. So yeah, that was fun. That was a blast.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing about Nerdtacular. When I was flying out, I wound up going through the TSA body scanner. And if you're trans and you fly, you know that this is kind of a source of anxiety. I have talked on the show before about how I had a bit of a run-in at a club where I was sexually assaulted and somebody stuck their hand between my legs just without my permission and caught me off guard, and that kind of sucks. And so the idea of going through TSA and having to have that area of my body examined for abnormalities is not a fun idea in my head. But going out, I flew out of Detroit and I got to see my body scan image, and judging by that image and the abnormalities that popped up on there, my tuck game is strong.
Hashtag tuck game strong.
Yes. Apparently I made that post on Facebook, and apparently I struck gold because if you want to hear me yelling from the audience at a live podcast recording about how tuck game is definitely a thing, go check out the most recent jury show with Justin Robert Young. It's great. But so yeah, going through TSA was not an issue for me going out. I have done this once before, never had much of an issue. When I went through in Detroit, there was, I guess my ankle was a little bit weird and something on my back was a little bit weird. And I was wearing a hat, which I don't know why they let me go through there with a hat, but that was a thing. But nothing in the areas, which was nice. Now I had to leave the airport to go get pizza with EJ, and I paid dearly for that because when I came back through for the first time ever, like the scanner worked exactly how I feared it would work. I went through and I looked, and there were abnormalities in my hips, on both sides of my hips and my chest. And the lady looked at me and was like, "How do you want to go through this?" And I said, "I would love to go through this as a female." And she's like, "All right, get your ass back in there." And so I went in, and they scanned me, and I came out, and I looked at the screen, and a little image popped up with one big old giant abnormality. Everything else was perfect, and there was just one thing that stood out in that body scan image that stripped me naked and took a look at my body. EJ, can you guess where that box was?
Huh. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
on.
I think I have
Yeah.
a good idea.
Yeah.
Twixt the thighs.
Quits. Yeah. So yeah, that kind of sucked. The TSA is very professional. It was a female. They didn't even try and get me with a guy, which was nice. Was just like, "I'm gonna do this to you, and then I'm gonna do this to you, and I'm gonna do this to you. Is that okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's okay." And I was like, well, I told them flat out, like, "Stop talking and just do it." And she's like, "No, I got to go through my thing," and spent like about a minute telling me exactly what she was going to do. And I said, "Just get it over with. No, it's not okay, but just do it. Don't ask me if it's okay if you're not going to give me a choice." So every inch of my body from my navel down to my kneecaps was patted down and fingers inserted into the waistband of my jeans and slid all the way around my waist. Just a very uncomfortable feeling and really brought on just a lot of dysphoria. That wasn't fun at all. So, but I got back and I'm in one piece. And I don't know. Maybe I just got to work on my tuck game a little bit. I am.
Yeah. Every time I've gone through the scanner ever since I started presenting female, inevitably, my thunder sets off alarms.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's real weird. Like there was a time a couple of years ago, I think, where like my hair like was setting off and it's like around it. And then worst of all, I was wearing like a dress that came down to like my knees, very loose, and I was wearing flip flops. There's like, "Do you have anything on your ankle?" And they look, it's just like, it's nothing. I have no idea how that triggered it. But apparently, I need to get better at tucking my ankle. I don't know.
I guess your tuck game is not strong.
No, it isn't at all. Not even a little bit. No, I had when I went to Manchester a couple months ago. I was in Manchester in the UK for the Roller Derby World Summit, and I was heading out there, and the woman who patted me. I mean, as always, my thunder set it off, and I got one of those like deep tissue pat downs, whatever the hell you want to call them, where it's just like, "Okay, I'm gonna pat you down with the back of my hand from here to here." It's just like, okay, this is gonna. I mean, I had the same experience. I got sexually assaulted in a club too, and it's not super fun.
No. I don't really want to have like I just spent a weekend with some of my best friends and people who are more like a family to me than my family ever was. And I got to go get pizza with a good friend of mine, and I'm having a great time, and I'm going to go home and relax finally and try and recuperate before work. And oh, yeah, those plans that you had of like just kind of relaxing and having a chill night. Nope, you get to think about this all day. You get to remember all these things. So was it at least gentle with you, or did they like need everything and like I don't know.
They were pretty gentle. The people who I got, they went with the like kind of tapping with the back of the hand. So I guess I got the the regular package, the light package. I didn't get to go up to premium or ultra. I didn't get I didn't get the pat down with BP Invigorate.
No tingling jelly or anything like that.
Oh,
I mean, as far as like pat downs go, like, I mean, I don't know. The question isn't whether or not they're doing it in a professional manner. It's whether or not they're necessary or they actually catch anything.
Yeah.
I read a study the other day that a Minneapolis airport, 95% of items that were done in a test, 95% of weapons and bombs and all this stuff got through security without them noticing. So, do the pat downs really do anything? Is this I mean, it's a system that's broken, and I think that there needs to be a different way to go about this.
You know, it's the illusion of security. You know, I mean, they have you take off your shoes when you're about to get on the plane, but no one, like, one dude tried to sneak a bomb into his shoes, and
Yeah,
find the next thing. I mean, we're chasing after what the last thing was, and it's not going to be the same thing again. So it's just kind of like this illusion of safety. This extra inconvenience makes you think that you're going to be, a plane's going to be fine, and
but it doesn't.
right.
I look at TSA and it's like, these are a bunch of jokesters. These are a bunch of idiots. I had all my liquids packaged in a bag like I'm supposed to, in a 1-quart bag, and you're supposed to remove it and put it in the bin. I never did that. I got them straight through. Hell, you know what? I brought home a freaking mannequin head. I don't have her down here. Her name is Hedy Lamont. April Ness, friend of mine, drew all over it and made it all artsy and fartsy and everything, and gave it to a guy named Hammond, who works over at Frog Pants Studios. And this year at Nerdtacular, he walks up to me with this mannequin head in his hand. I was like, I'm sick of having this creepy piece of shit in my closet. Here, this belongs to you now. And just threw it at me. And so, okay, I've got a mannequin head. It's going to be fun getting that through security. I'm sure on the outline it looked like a severed head. So, yeah, that got through. No questions there. It was just, it's a system.
If they can't freak out over a arted up styrofoam head, then what are they really doing? Really?
They're going to freak out because I have an extra body part that they're not prepared for. And they got to investigate and make sure it's an actual body part. Yeah. I think that there needs to be something different. I don't know what needs to change, but I think something definitely does.
There's got to be some better science they can use.
I mean, because what are you going to search for? I mean, yeah, you can get like metal detectors. Okay, so everything metal is out.
Right.
Although I had metal buckles on the backs of my jeans. Like when I went through, I have purple jeans that I dyed myself, and I love them very, very much. They're my favorite pair of jeans ever. But they've got metal buckles on the back pockets, big old metal buckles. I went through them. There was one time I went through the metal detector instead of the body scan image, and didn't set anything off. So, what you're bringing chemicals through, I guess.
Science.
I don't know. I think there's a better way to detect science coming through an airport than stripping somebody naked and examining their body, essentially. But so yeah. On another note, you know what? I am tired. I am sick and tired. I am. If anyone has ever had a really good time somewhere, they know that there is probably a pretty decent bad time coming up afterwards. It's like the crash after the high. You have a sugar crash after you get high. You have a con crash, is what I've heard it referred to as, where I had an amazing weekend. I went out. I had a vacation. I was up in the mountains. I got drunk a lot. I came back. I met with a friend of mine. EJ and I had pizza. And then I came home, spent the night with my partners, and it was a great, great time. And now I'm back at work. And I feel like shit.
I mean it's a short week.
True. I mean, I didn't do anything for 4th of July. Yeah, that's right. 4th of July was this week. Did you do anything for 4th of July?
Nah, not really.
I tried to comfort a dog that was freaking out. That's what I did.
I ate some bratwurst, got a little misgendered,
Yeah.
The huge.
The huge. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm dealing with that. I feel like a lot of people I know are feeling kind of shitty and depressed out there. Um, I know I'm talking to one friend um, who is feeling pretty depressed and pretty dysphoric and having a rough time and is just way overworked and so I'm trying to do my best to help find ways to fight that. So I'm taking her out to a vintage clothing store and we're gonna go try some random stuff on and take some pictures and see what comes of it, see if it does anything.
Nice.
Because for some reason, something that helps my dysphoria sometimes is even if I don't like the way that I look in the mirror, even done up or anything like that, I can still, if I go get dressed up and have my picture taken, like a few times, and I can pick one out, like that helps my dysphoria a lot. I know that's not the case for a lot of people, but that's what does it for me sometimes. So we'll
Yeah,
see if it works for this.
well, a little bit too. I've had a similar, like the first time I went and got like some professional photos done, I was just like, I don't really know what I want. And I just like brought some clothes and tried some, and like afterwards it was just like, this is, it was nice at the time, but I didn't feel great about it. And second time I did it, I was, I came through with a plan. I had put something together. I had just a look that I was going for, and that one felt great. It was like I had a concept, I had an idea, and I was like, I'm gonna make it happen. And just like I felt accomplished, and that it definitely lessened my dysphoria. It's just like I
Yeah.
did this. This is what I want. I look how I want.
Do you think a lot of it is catching it in the early stages before it comes incredibly debilitating?
Ah, I don't know. I mean, it was something that it didn't really, since I planned that, like, I booked that a while ago, and so it didn't really, cross over with my, it didn't really intersect really well with my previous, like, dysphoric episode. Like, I
Yeah.
had a few of those, and that just became like a self-defeating cycle. I was just like, I wasn't putting on makeup. I wasn't, caring too much about how I dress. Although, like, I was doing a lot of retail therapy, and that was probably poorly advised.
Yeah. And retail therapy works for me. It's just I barely ever have the money left to spend on it. And so that just kind of that makes it real hard.
Yeah, I spent a little more than I should. It's just like, I got debt to pay down, man. Do I need this many more dresses? And I mean, the answer is yes, I do.
Oh
But
yeah. Do you need them now though? That's the thing.
And the answer is yes, I do, but, probably shouldn't.
Yeah. I need to get a burp button for my thing here. This beer, this Oberon is not agreeing with me. Um anyway, so yeah, that's something I think I don't know. I think definitely one of the things that is a factor for me is being able to notice when I am starting to go down a slippery slope and being able to have the wherewithal to pull out of it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I talked about it a little while ago about that's definitely the thing that it's definitely something that I did a few months ago because I caught myself looking out at a parking garage and wondering if five-star stories was high enough, and being able to see that and be like, hold on, time to take a closer look at things, and I did. I was able to turn things around and I'm doing a lot better now. But yeah, I think just being able to recognize what is going on in your own head and acknowledge that, and I think that's the first step to having a game plan.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as like getting your picture taken or anything like that, like, is there anything else that jumps out at you as being something that helps with dysphoria?
The helps with this, I mean,
Retail therapy,
free
photo
therapy
shoots.
helps. I mean, it's just, I guess it's just like the more I get to develop my look, and I think like it might not be just like an acute episodic fix where like I just like, oh well, I'm having this issue, boop, there it's fixed. But I think it's generally gotten better over time as I've
Yeah.
figured out my aesthetic, as I figured out, how I want to look, and be able to like kind of take more ownership of it. Because when you first start diving into the waters. I mean, when I was first, when I didn't identify as trans yet, and I was just like, I'm just a cross dresser. I'm gonna wear pretty clothes in my bedroom. I just had this really like nonsense collection of stuff that I just had, like I just whatever I found that was like cheap at Old Navy, and I just like wow, and it's just like I was deriving no joy from it. It wasn't really a look on me. It was just clothes. It was and it's just like it was there. It's like okay, yeah, I'm a gal, whatever. But the more I'm able to own it, and the more I'm able to, find looks that in the past, like I would stare at and just like kind of really kind of kind of put myself in, kind of try to inhabit with my mind. And now I'm just able to like, oh, well, I can look like that now. I can wear cute shoes, or I can, wear, dope ass black lipstick or whatever.
I'm jealous of that. I love black lipstick, but I don't think I'd ever be able to pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think I was pulling it off when I was taking a selfie before the show, but
I like it. I like makes my
give it a
teeth look really white.
So yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing where just as I'm able to take more ownership of it, and as I'm able to like take more ownership of like what it means to be, female, what it means to, look how I look, that does a lot to help it just over the long run. And sometimes there are little episodes, but
Mm-hmm.
it gets less bad over time, I guess.
Yeah. And I think making sure that you're remaining vigilant throughout the good times to be like, okay, I like this. I like this. This person's really cool. And then just kind of storing those in the back of your head so you know that, all right, things are getting bad. So I'm going to go ahead. I remember I like doing this. This helped me. I'm going to go do that. No. So yeah, that's what's going on in my life. EJ, you and I had chatted a little bit about surgeries earlier this week, and I know you have people in your life close to you that have gone through and had various gender reassignment surgeries, and I have people in my life who have done that. We chatted about talking about it, but I didn't really know what the details were on that. I mean, one of the way that I met you was you standing up on stage and singing a song about not wanting to go through with the surgery.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I agree with that. I think that I don't know. I don't know. Do we want to get into this?
Pardon me?
Do we want to get into this pretty deep?
Yeah, why not? It's a topic.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, no one's listening out there.
If you haven't heard that song, go back to my first episode, EJ, on DOATW.com. It's at the end of the episode. It's a song about my dick called My Favorite Mistake. Get it? So yeah, I mean, at some level, when I think about it, like I don't know, like I've always, for instance, envied the way that women orgasm, and I mean, being female, has, I don't know, I mean, at some level, at some like real, like kind of low, kind of just barely buzzing level, it's something where I'm just like, yeah, I want the whole experience. Yeah, I'd like to have an innie instead of an outie, I mean, but at another level, I think there's a fair amount of my identity that's tied up in my thunder,
Mm-hmm.
tied up in my anger sword. Oh, I got euphemisms for days. Tied up in my tragic Johnson.
Oh, we could get into names for that, but that might be straying off topic a little bit.
A little.
I completely get that. And the place that my head's at right now is like what I've got works relatively well. As long as it works, like I know it works. It doesn't fit, but it works. It doesn't fit, but it does the job that it does a job. Might
That's
not be the job that I want it to do, but it does a job. Now, if I go about messing with that, I don't know. Is that gonna make it so it can't do a job anymore? Let alone the wrong job. It just can't do anything.
yeah, that it seems like kind of a gamble. I mean that was a lot of, trying to, this is really analogous to the first process of trying to come to terms with my identity. I mean, at
Mhm.
first I'm like, well, why would I want to give up all this, straight cis white male privilege to go be in one of the most marginalized groups that's around, one of the be a trans woman, not just that, but a giant trans woman who, I mean, that's something that makes it a little more difficult to pass. And so at the same, it was eventually I got to the point where it's just like, well, I don't have to transition because, I hate myself or I'm like disgusted with my body or anything. I can do it because I want to and because it'll make me happy, and because it'll be better. And I mean, the decision to, get some work down under, it's something that it seems like the same decision, the same kind of thing, is just like, well, it might make me happier, but the stakes are way higher.
Yeah, and you got to go through. As far as like physical stuff, you got to go through a lot more.
Yeah.
Like what you get sore tits and laser hurts.
Mm.
And that's as far as things that cause a lot of physical discomfort and are debilitating physically. Taking pills or doing injections is not a huge deal,
Yeah.
or yeah, or rubbing cream all over your body that's loaded with estrogen. Um,
And also, like, once if you get bottom surgery done, I mean, I'm not sure how much you're familiar with it, with having to use a stent. Are you familiar with that at all?
I know about dilating. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, but dilating, and apparently for the rest of your life, every week you have to dilate if you have not had sex that week.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's just, uh, that seems like it'd be a very sad.
Oh yeah.
It's just
It's
like,
like
well, get in
take
the
the
act this week.
take the biggest dick you can find that will fit in your body, go up one size, and then hold that in there for 20 minutes. And it's not a it's so my girlfriend had facial reconstructive surgery. And every night she's supposed to be like massaging her face to rub and get everything. Because they peeled her face off and ground down a bunch of bone. And you're trying to like work that around and rub your face around and so that's and it hurts. And her nose was essentially broken a bunch of times and then put back together. And so her nose is still hurting and it's probably gonna hurt for about a year. And that's a thing. So I mean, I don't know. Like it's great. She's not really sure if she's gonna get feeling back on the top of her head. Right now, it's itching her like crazy, so it looks like there's some nerves reforming there. But I mean, as far as under the belt, like I don't know. Like I've heard of somebody who did not dilate the right way, and they can't even fit a Bic pen up there.
Gosh.
And so and for anybody out there who doesn't know, like your body, like you do anything surgically, you cut yourself open, you cut your and if you have a cut on your leg or something like that, your body says, okay, we need to heal this. This is a wound. We're just going to heal right over it and make it smooth and flat and heal that surface. And so you go and you cut into any part of your body, and your body is going to try and heal that by making it flat. And so if you don't basically mold it to the shape of a dildo, I mean, it's gonna lose its depth and its width, and it's not gonna be useful for anything. And there's also like, so there's that, and which hurts, and you're gonna have to do that. I mean, at least 3 times a day immediately after getting the surgery, and then once a day for a year at least, and then from there on, you're doing it for the rest of your life. But there's also like, is it going to feel? Is it going to look aesthetically similar, or similar enough to where? Because I would go through with it if I went through with it, it would be indecipherable between a cis woman and a trans woman.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of question there as to, is it going to look the right way? Is it going to feel the right way? Am I going to be able to orgasm ever again? Because I like that. I enjoy doing that from time to time. I would be very sad if I did not have that ability.
Yeah, I'm looking up some. There was some poll someone did online. This is a casual poll of some forum. It's like, hey, people who have had, the reconstructive surgery, do you have like less sensation there? Like, do you have no sensation? About the same? Do you have more? And I mean, it was pretty well split. It's kind of a crapshoot. Some people, find themselves more sensitive, which, personally, I would love. I mean, the my junk doesn't again, listen to my song and I'll tell you more. But I mean, to make that, to roll those dice, like I know that part of my body. And so I would be doing something that I'd be kind of rolling dice for something that, it works. I mean, it's something where if I'm, driving through Indiana and I need to use the bathroom and I can't find a safe gas station, I can find a tree and piss behind it.
Mhm.
I mean, there are benefits to it. It works. I've gotten used to it. I mean, I've been, dealing with my gender identity for a long time and dealing with a lot of stuff that I can't change. I can't change that I'm, 6'7" and trying to be a trans woman, or am a trans woman, whatever. I can't change that I'm 6'7", and when I see all these like little petite things, and it's just like, no, I had to change my perception of what womanhood is, and so getting used to my junk as fitting within the idea of a woman was part of it. So maybe to mess around with there and just like roll that dice for something that isn't just like this kind of source of just like complete heartache. It's something that I'm interested in, to have like the full female experience, but maybe just like for a test drive.
Yeah. Well, and that's the question too. Like how is it going to be the full female experience?
Right.
Even if you go through with it and everything works fine, like, or if it works as well as it does now, is that the full female experience? And I know, I mean, for me at least, since starting on hormones about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, my orgasms have changed. Like they're definitely a different type. Certainly more powerful when they are, but it takes a lot more work to get there. So is that all that needs to change? I don't know. Am I going to be having those same types of orgasms, or am I going to go back to having like small ones like I used to have and not be able to ever do anything more than that? There's so much unknown, and the unknown scares the shit out of me.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's something where I don't even, I mean, it took me a real long time to say, to commit to, I was just like, well, I don't know who I'll be in 5 years, so why commit to something now and change my body,
Yeah.
like that. And here it's just like, I mean, when I think about having to, dilate, once a week for the rest of my life, I'm like, who boy, I do not have my crap together enough to like, I can definitely imagine like having some week down the road where I'm just like, I'm too depressed to do anything, and then just like kind of
no vagina.
Right. And then I'm, fucking Barbie doll,
Well, I mean, I thought that too going into the transition, like the whole thing, like if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. Deal.
Right.
I heard that being thrown around, and so I made a point to masturbate a bunch when I was starting out, just because I was so scared of losing it. And now I don't really. It's like, whatever. Like it's not as an enjoyable of an experience for me, and my libido is way down, which
Oh yeah.
one of the things I'm actually very happy about. I can actually think about sex in a non-physical way, which is nice. But yeah, I'd like it, but I don't know. And we're definitely talking pretty much entirely about a vaginoplasty right now, but there's definitely other things out there. I'm talking with my doctor right now about a possible orchiectomy. And I don't know if I'm going to go through with that. I right now I'm talking with him and we're making sure to document a mysterious pain that we can't diagnose whatsoever, and hopefully after a while we'll get to the point where we just give up and my doctor sends me over to a surgeon to get him cut off. And so that's like, I'm in the process of doing that, but at the same time, now that it's starting to get like, okay, this is getting real. Crap. This is scary.
Yeah.
Because you get rid of those and yeah, you don't have to take Spiro anymore, which is amazing. I would love to cut 2 pills a day out of my regimen. But at the same time, what else is that going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. It's something where I'm used to having them down there, and it's just something that, I mean, even going halfway makes me, I don't know, messing around with that area in general makes me a little iffy. I'm just like, well, let's just leave it how it is for now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's to even, I mean, I've been Googling around to see if there's a way I can get my health insurance to pay for breast augmentation, but anything,
Yeah.
below that, I'm still just like, oh, that's where the squishy bits are. That's where you know, that's the
Like, yeah, even with an orchie, at least I know like tucking is it's so much easier. And I would love to be able to wear a tight skirt or a bathing suit that doesn't have a skirt on it.
oh yeah.
Um,
I was wearing a bathing suit with a skirt on it a few weeks ago, and I definitely was just I had a little bit of peakage. I had a little bit of
mhm.
uh just I was dropping bombs. So
Yeah, there are lots of good things that could come from it, but the road to get to those possible good things is very long and very hard, and I'm not sure I'm ready to go down there yet. So I don't know. Updates will come as it happens. You had a couple of news stories you wanted to bring up. Do you got those?
oh yeah, I got them. Have you looked at all about this nonsense going on about this stranger article, the detransitioners? They were transgender until they weren't.
Yeah, I browsed through it a little bit. Anytime I see anything about detransitioning, I kind of dismiss it as bullshit.
So this one was trying to have it both ways, and it's trying to paint, like, to say it's just like, oh, it's okay if you want to transition, but we have to also pay attention to the marginalized group of people who detransition, and to that sometimes the trans community turns on them if they decide to detransition, and all this. And it's just, first of all, if you detransition, I mean, that kind of means you pretty much cis, yeah.
Yeah,
Like, this
yeah.
again.
You're not part of a trans group. I mean, and I've heard that like most people who detransition eventually go back and redo it sometime in their life.
And yeah,
Make
that was another thing about this article, is that it only like talks about a certain kind of transition. It only talks about people who are just like, this is terrible, I was wrong, and just kind of.
Yeah. I know plenty of people who had to quit hormones because they lost their insurance, or they detransitioned because their family threatened to disown them and they weren't ready for that.
Yeah, or people who just weren't ready yet, and
Yeah.
it doesn't mention any of that in the article. What it does do is it quotes Ray Blanchard. Do you know that guy?
No, do tell.
He is one of the big five of transphobic doctors. Like, the story is, if you see a anti-trans article and it quotes a source, chances are it's going to be one of five doctors, and Ray Blanchard is one of them. And the other ones, uh, yeah, it was Caitlin Burns, who's Transcribe on Twitter, who's a great, just a great trans writer. She's just amazing. And literally, like, there are 5 people who just make all sorts of money pandering to transphobia. It's like Zucker, Cantor, McHugh, Bailey, and Blanchard. And so if you ever see any of them, like, I looked it up, and so what the author of the Stranger piece did, they did a follow-up piece just like kind of responding to the controversy where they just kind of defended themselves, and they said, oh, a lot of trans women said that, Ray Blanchard was a quack and a transphobic doctor, so I asked him if he was a transphobic quack and he said he wasn't, so suck on that, trans women. It's just like, that isn't how it works. And then I just saw
that as saying I don't want to be racist, but
I just saw earlier today someone like dug up an interview he did with Vice a few years ago. And so they have some choice quotes. The question for him was, do you think that classifying transgender people as having a disorder does contribute to stigma against the trans community? And he said, no, I mean, how many people who make a joke about trannies consult the DSM first?
Oh no.
Yeah, he's definitely a transphobic quack.
Oh no.
You think autoandrophilia, where a woman is aroused by the thought of herself as a man, is a real paraphilia? He said, no, I proposed it simply in order not to be accused of sexism, because there are all these women who want to say women can rape too, women can be pedophiles too, women can be exhibitionists too. It's a perverse expression of feminism. And so I thought, let me jump the gun on this. I don't think the phenomenon even exists. Like, this is quack, and they were just like, they went straight to the source. And meanwhile, like, the woman who wrote this, like, she made some major like journalistic lapses, and like she got called out. Julia Serrano, she asked Julia Serrano, author of Whipping Girl, if she wanted to make a comment on it, and she was just like, no, I don't want to contribute to one of those things, because like, in this climate in 2017, like, it's worth it to hear the stories of, people who decided they needed to transition, people who, thought it was okay. But like, to come up, like, all you're really doing is like kind of putting these stories out there, saying it's just like, oh, there are some people who detransition, to give transphobes or like the hope that we can be cured or fixed or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's happening all over the place. It's just another example of xenophobia. It's people who are different than you are scary. Like,
yeah,
the freaking travel ban. Like, oh, we've had people who have killed people come out of these countries, so we must ban the people from these countries, all of them. And yeah, it's reminiscent of that to a huge degree. Like, some like trans people are scary. Some people like don't do it, so that, or some people detransition, so that must mean that everyone is not taking it seriously.
And you know what? If someone is taking pills every week, chances are, statistically, there are going to be some people who stop taking the pills.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it should be obvious, but, and they like, the article was saying just like, I mean, the arguments, like the sides that tended to be taken, like, people like Buck Angel were defending the article, and that guy like he I performed at a Trans Day of Visibility performance a few months ago, and he introduced me, which I thought was cool for a minute, and then at the end of the performance, he like called out Laverne Cox and Janet Mock and told us all that we should be nicer to cis people, or else we really have to cater to them a little bit more. It's just like, oh, what are you doing, dude?
I love Buck Angel. How could he do that?
He's not great. Like, I have a friend of mine who, like, she called him out on some sexism, and he kind of sicked her, he sicked his followers, his fan club on her. It just like, he's not awesome. And so he's going to bat for this. And so you have that, and then like the trans women who it just seems like it's like trans women versus everybody else when it comes to this article, like always.
Yeah.
They
That's real. I don't know.
they quoted this the author of the article in their follow-up piece. They said, oh well, there's a lot of there are detransitioners who just think it's a great story, and they linked to one of them, and I'm looking at this person. It's this website from some,
Hang on, pause. What do you mean a great story? Like somebody wakes up in the morning and is like, hey, like my life is really boring. I want a story to tell at cocktail parties. I'm gonna grow tits.
no, what they're saying is that the article was great. They were like,
Oh, okay.
they were complimenting it. They were saying like, oh well, this really tells their story. Well, it's just like, well, you can't tell that without talking to trans people. You can't. I mean, it directly affects us. We are participants in this story.
Yeah.
And so I was like looking at some of the people who were, kind of defending it, and I found this this one website of someone who says it's alternate ways to think about gender dysphoria, identity, retransition, detransition, and transgender issues from a former trans woman and a psychology grad student. And I was reading it, and they like the first piece is like the identity trap and like criticizing the idea of identity, and it says like that identities connect to tribalism. They're like, why not, instead of identifying as a trans person, you identify as someone with gender dysphoria? Come on, man.
What?
Come on. That's silly. They're kind of
Doctor, I don't have a cold. I have the sniffles.
right.
You have the cold. You need to take these antibiotics. No, it's just the sniffles.
They're saying it's just like, oh, it creates like, I think identity is originated based in tribalism and evolution, where we were part of a tribe and there was an us and a them. We kind of needed an intuition to know who were our people and who were not. So this creates a lot of divisiveness, and it makes it hard to hear things that are outside our tribal view. It's not like being a trans woman is being a fan of Glee. It's not like all of a sudden it's just like I have some preference and I'm being closed-minded. It's just like, no, this is real goddamn life.
Yeah.
This is hell yeah. I'm looking for people who have the same views as me because I'm looking not to be dehumanized.
Yeah. The only people that seem to understand what it's like as other trans people. So yeah.
Like, do you know how important it is to find like a sense of community, to find art that speaks to you, stuff like that, to be able to, have shared experiences in culture and language? I mean, for the longest time, like I was like, so one of the things like right before I transitioned was like, I kind of had this, I saw these discussions in the feminist space, and I was just like, I didn't really recognize myself as a woman yet. And so I was like, oh man, I feel like this should apply to me because I feel like something this, I identify with this, but I'm not this. I was still like, I thought of myself as a dude. And so for a little while, I dove into like men's rights and stuff like that. I was just like, this is a good, and like it was like a hot minute before I was just like, no, this is silly.
And it doesn't, yeah, it makes sense.
Thing. It's just like terrible idea, terrible ideology. But
one of the things that I have found, I hear very few people putting it this way, but the few times that I have heard it, it has made so much sense to me. The trans community has a huge suicide rate. We all know the figures of that, and people don't tend to take that seriously. People don't tend to take the trans minority seriously because there must be something wrong in the head because of the suicide rate. And I hear that a lot, but what I don't hear from people is like, no, yeah, there might be something up with their head. Like, yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, the fact that their head doesn't match their body, that's definitely a thing. And that fact draws people to having that huge suicide rate. We have found a way to help with that. transitioning. The reason that I came out finally was because it was a choice between, do I want to stop living or do I want to come out as trans and try and go through this rough road?
Yeah.
And so coming out and transitioning and being who you feel most comfortable as, and abandon, like so many people I hear of are like, well, you still have your male privilege and that kind of bullshit. I don't have that. I gave that up a long time ago. Um, like you dive all the way in and I feel more comfortable with myself.
Yeah.
The suicides that, or the self-harm or whatever you want to, however you want to phrase it, the stuff that happens after coming out like that and transitioning or being in your transition happens because the rest of the world doesn't accept you.
Right. As far as I'm concerned, if you have a community that, as a 41% suicide rate, if you have any community where 41% of them are getting, systematically eliminated from being alive, that's
Yeah.
like passively society endorsed genocide, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. And there's, I mean, now, and people don't seem to know about it. And in fact, I don't even remember. I can look it up here and try and find it. But there are reasons why people turn out as trans. Like the fact that, I mean, Powers was talking at a presentation about two siblings, two people that were born male, separate at birth, found each other again after 50 years, were both trans. So the fact that that happens, I mean, leads you to believe like, okay, yeah, maybe there is something going on with some kind of chemistry. And it turns out that women who used very large amounts of estrogen as fertility treatments generally had a higher chance of having homosexual or trans children.
Cool.
And so it's definitely a thing. And there are ways at this point in our lives with the medical resources we have, you can go into an MRI and look at somebody's brain and tell what their gender identity is. There are distinct differences in trans women and cis men. And so this isn't just something that gets made up. This isn't just a fling. This is a serious thing. And if the fact that depression, anxiety, suicidal tendencies comes along with that, I think it's not unreasonable to say that, I mean, we should do everything we can to help that.
And even beyond that, I mean, one of I like the way you phrased it, when you were talking about how, it was the choice between, coming out and, not living. And, I mean, that's something where when people say, oh, I didn't have a choice I didn't have a choice, I had to transition. It's just like, well, you always have a choice, even if the choice is between, suffer, transition, or die, I mean, that's still a choice that you made. And so I don't know. I mean, like, at some level, yeah, it's absolutely a thing where our brains, where it's legitimate. We're legitimate. We exist. But I really hate the language you see some places, being stigmatized as just a choice. It's like if I'm getting up in the morning and I, have a craving for pizza, and then later that day I go and get pizza, that's a desire that came from within me for forces that I, can't explain, that I chose to take an action on. And that action that I took might have consequences for my health, However, it's something that, something was inside of me and I chose to embrace it. And, there ain't nothing wrong with that choice,
Definitely. I did just look it up here. 11 scientifically proven causes of gender dysphoria, and we're going to test my reading skills here. I'm just going to run through these. If you want to look them up, you go ahead and do it. But DES exposure, congenital adrenal hypoplasia, aromatase excess or deficiency, Klinefelter syndrome, PCOS, androgen insensitivity syndrome, exposure to parental estrogen/androgens, physical disorders, or I'm sorry, psychological disorders as far as ASD and others, abuse history, which is a coping mechanism, endocrine receptor sensitivity variance, which is a CAG repeat, or neuroanatomical structural variance. All of these things have been scientifically proven to cause gender dysphoria. And so we have things in our life, like you find people who, I mean, yeah, okay, so putting your hand on a hot burner, that is scientifically proven to burn your hand.
Sure.
Very basic science, but it is scientifically proven. Now, the treatment for that is to not say, stop doing that, go away. I'm not going to take you seriously because you did a stupid thing. No, the thing you do with that is you put ointment on it, you put burn cream on it. You try and fix the wound. It's something that is, I don't want to say broken. I don't think a child is broken for doing that. I think that a child is, it doesn't make it any less legitimate. It's just, it's a thing that happened. They got burned. Let's treat it.
Right.
Okay, so one of these things happened, whether you have a congenital adrenal hypoplasia or you have a history of abuse and you're using it as a coping mechanism, which is just as legitimate. You don't just shove them away. You say, okay, this is going to help you. This is proven to help people. Let's get you in here. Let's see what we can do about this, and hopefully you'll survive.
And like I think one area where that analogy falls short is that, if you burn your hand on the stove, it's gonna hurt, no matter what, it's gonna hurt necessarily. And there's no circumstance under which it won't. Being, trans and having something inside you, there is only a conditional hurt, and that condition rests largely on, societal acceptance.
True.
True. I mean, it's something where, in a wonderful, gender enlightened utopia, maybe there would be, less of this pain and, being able to embrace it a little bit more,
it's not a perfect metaphor, but it's definitely, I don't know. I mean, like before I came out, I had a great relationship. I had a family that I was involved with. I had a job where I was accepted and hired in. I was given honest estimates at the mechanic, all of these different things. And I was doing okay for what society thought was the normal way to go about your life. But inside, behind closed doors, like I was not doing well. I would a bunch of self-harm and a bunch of thoughts about just giving up.
Yeah.
And so being able to come out and embrace myself, that felt great. It was freeing. I was not normal by most people's standards, but I felt better about myself. And then later on, when I had the bout with my attempt with suicide, it was a result of a bunch of things. I was graduating college. I didn't know what to do with my life, even though I had spent 5 years working towards this thing that everybody told me I was supposed to do. I didn't have a relationship, and I didn't think I was going to find another one, because who would love a trans woman like me? I lost my family because I was trans, and just I was not happy with where I was after a year into my transition. And that all drove me to that. Most of those things are a result of how society views what is normal. Not just trans people, what is normal.
And like to bring it back to Dr. Ray Blanchard again, another one of the quotes from that article. This is awesome. You wrote in a blog post that the word normal has been effectively off limits for describing erotic interest for decades. Why do you think people object to the word normal? And he said, I always say normal is the other N word. You just aren't allowed to say it. I have almost never written the word normal because for decades now, since I was a graduate student, and I'm an old man, normal has been a dirty word. Oh.
Well, okay. As crazy as that sounds on the surface, like that, I mean, every bit of that is crazy.
Yes.
But one thing that jumps out at me, I am so sick and tired of people saying that sexual attraction to different things is not normal.
Right.
Like if you are not supposed to think about sex. If you think about sex, you're not normal. And if you're married and you think about sex, that's okay. but it has to be missionary only, and with a cis male and a cis female under the sheets and with the lights off and nothing else.
I mean,
Otherwise, you're abnormal.
yeah, all the, anti-trans activism, all the, laws and the bathroom. I mean, it's just an attempt to drive us back into the closet, to, hear no evil, see no evil, to, not have to admit that something is against the grain of this puritanical society. So
Yeah.
I
And
know
that's,
I'm really blowing minds right now, putting the conservative Christians on blast. Ugh.
that's why I love like just being blatant as hell when I'm around other people. I don't apologize for shit when I'm around people. I'll make dirty jokes all day at work.
Oh yeah.
I'll respect boundaries, but I'll make dirty jokes all day.
That's why I write songs about my dick.
All right. I think that's a wonderful place to end the show. Don't you?
Yeah.
6 songs. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, diaryofatranswoman@gmail.com is where you're going to want to go ahead and send those. You can find the show at Trans Diary Show on Twitter. I am at Abby Geek.
And I am at ShiaMX500.
Awesome. And if you want to, we're also doing stuff on Facebook. We're getting that up and running and active. We've got a bunch of cool stuff going around on the show's Facebook and Twitter sites. Give us 5-star reviews on whatever site that you are using to listen to this. It will go a long ways towards helping the show, and we appreciate each and every one of those. If you want to learn more about supporting the show, head on over to patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman. Every little dollar there helps. I know we have a bunch of people who are just doing $1 an episode. Pretty sure you won't even notice that coming out of your bank account at the end of the month. I know I support some shows and I've never noticed it. So go give as little as you want, or you can give as much as you want. If you want to, you could do $1 million.
Oh boy, that would be good. If anyone wants to give us $1 million,
I would like that.
Yeah.
At that point, you could just do a one-time donation. We'd be happy. We do amazing things for you.
We also want to thank our newest sponsor, Tucking. #TuckGameStrong.
Tuck Game Strong. Awesome. That just about does it. Artwork for the show is provided by Taylor Elaine Straw. I got to see Taylor this weekend. She is doing awesome, and I thank her so much for doing the artwork for the show because I love it. I also got to hang out with James and Svet of Same Sex Mary, who do the music for the show. They are some amazing people, and I love them so very, very much. Check out more of their work at samesexmary.bandcamp.com. Thank you so much, everybody. Be sure to take care and have fun.
Bye, y'all.